What is going on, sports card fans? Hopefully you guys are having a wonderful day, and today we're here with a video on my thoughts going into Euros 2020 2021. Basically all of the things I'm considering, my thoughts leading into it, what I'm expecting coming out of it, and really what the takeaway should be going forward just from the future 3, 4, 5 months. So we'll have to see what really happens with the soccer card market in what is kind of one of the first massive events during its existence beyond just Champions League, which is still fun, but it's not the Euros and it's most certainly not the World Cup. So I think that's the first big thing of note. This is going to be the biggest stage so far for the soccer card market. So what we can take away from this will be quite a lot. It'll tell us kind of what we can expect going forward, what things that have happened in the past were trends. Maybe they're not necessarily the way we can expect the market to be going forward. Something like Prism that happened before, will it happen again? There's no way to know beyond just seeing how we kind of, live through each of these cycles. Last year with the NFL card market, it was kind of a weird time where positional players, maybe they could get some hype, who knew, and before the season, their prices really jumped. And then during the season, the hype didn't last week to week for these positional guys, and their prices just continued downwards because it wasn't sustainable. So will we have that going forward? Who knows? So that is what is important to see. Kind of, will that demand sustain? And in something like the Euros, I'd imagine it will sustain initially. However, when the Euros is done and when soccer seasons across Europe are kind of died down for a little bit, I do imagine there will be a little bit of a retrace, but it'll be really exciting to see kind of the way that the market developed. The second thing, in terms of where I stand right now and my thoughts on the market going forward and into this, what I expect is that I think second tier players are going to get the big boost. A lot of people that have kind of been pouring into the hobby lately, you'll see a lot of Mbappe, Haaland, Messi, Ronaldo, Maradona, Pele hype, all these goats. Mbappe and Haaland obviously more to prove to be goats, but they're seen as the goats for the modern generation, so they get that type of price accordingly. And for those types of players, I mean, even the vintage ones, I still believe in long term. Maybe the Haalands and Mbappes, you probably missed your chance. Still going forward, I still think they'll go up. I still personally have some and will continue to hold because I think soccer just doesn't have enough pop. But in the short term, if you're looking for good returns in the next 5-6 months, I don't think that Haaland, who won't be at the Euros, and Mbappe, who will be at the Euros, but that's kind of cooked into his price. That's everyone knows that. It's not a secret. So he might get some attention and some sort of boost in that regard, but again, kind of baked into it. So I think second tier players are definitely the way to go wherever you see that line in your head. I know some people think KDB and Lewandowski are kind of the, tier under goats that are kind of modern and should be seen higher in that light. Maybe you like, a little bit of English guys with Kane, Rashford, Sancho, stuff like that. João Felix, just really wherever you want to go with your younger or even just modern great players. I still think that's a great play because when something like Mbappe and Haaland have gone up this much, I mean, is it sustainable for them to keep going without the rest of it picking up behind? I don't really think so. It wouldn't make too much sense. And even if they did keep going, that money's going to find its way down to these other guys. So at some point, they're going to kick up. And I think that is where the real opportunity is going forward. So it'll be fun to see how that plays out. And I mean, if the guys that are seen as goats really do take another step forward, it'll be insane to see, and it'll be crazy to see how that then plays an effect on the market behind it. Soccer is really early in the whole growth stage. It has seen a lot of good returns, but at the same time, a lot of stuff hasn't done anything extreme, so still opportunities, no doubt. The third point, for those that are in it, I think this is going to be a great time to offload some of your Prism base, essentially, just cards that maybe aren't all that rare but are also desired currently by the market, and something you're not going to necessarily miss if you were to sell it. I think that's the best way to look at it, because there are so many things that are the higher end of rarity that you start to find hard to find, and then you really enjoy them. You understand the the desire and the hunt and all that, and you realize that the prism base is just something you can buy and sell and get back whenever. So sure, in the moment people might want it, but I mean, if you plan on being in the soccer card game for a little while, it's something you can get back probably at a lower price at a later date. Sure, there'll be ups and downs along the way, which can mean opportunity for others, but it is something you can't reattain. What I would say is offload the stuff that you don't necessarily need and keep the things that you think are desirable and rare and just things you obviously don't want to let go in the short term. Like I said before, I think the soccer card market still has a long way to go. So with that said, I don't see why I'd be selling off my rare stuff that is hard to attain now. Instead, I'll just kind of get off of some of the other things that maybe I don't necessarily need to maybe even fund other rare things that I could then get into my collection. And this doesn't even have to be like rarity in terms of like player desirability. It could just mean in terms of the product. Recently in basketball, we've seen Select start to kind of, catch up to Prism. And for a while, we were kind of waiting for something to do that. And with soccer, can be the same thing. There are definitely tons of other types of parallels, inserts, just weird things that, could one day be desirable at a, greater extent than they are now, and they're actually rare, unlike the base stuff that can be widely seen and, taken by the market. And my fourth little note kind of goes along with the previous, and that is whenever you're offloading and maybe getting off of some of your less desirable things during the Euros that you've just found that they've gone up enough to where you think, well, I could sell there and be happy. Whenever that happens, try to filter that money, obviously save or do whatever you want to with that. But if you are going to bring it back into cards, I would say just stay away from people that were at the Euros. I mean, it kind of makes sense, but don't go into another market that's humming. Don't go into basketball during the Euros, because that's when playoffs will be going on, and that's when they'll be at their highest. So I would say just avoid that type of stuff. Personally, I'll be selling off some things during the Euros and then probably moving them into USMNT stuff, maybe some football cards American football cards that haven't gone up yet, because that'll be pretty early on in the summer relative to when it starts. Just moving backwards into other segments of the hobby that you enjoy that maybe haven't seen any growth. I think that is a great way to go about just supporting the whole entire hobby. As much as we like to talk about, pumping soccer and getting it to, it's a whole collective thing. So whatever you're involved in, if there are things that you see that haven't gone up too much, then yeah, definitely work backwards. And I'd say it's a nice way to encourage yourself to sell if you can see other things that you like that haven't done much, while you have something that you don't really care too much about that maybe has done a good bit. It makes the transition easier for you. And number 5, the last little note of the video, the most exciting one for me, will be have the noobs learned, have the entry-level collectors that are coming into soccer, have they heeded the warnings and heard the advice or seen the charts of what has happened during the August boom? Do they know? I'm not sure. We'll see. If you don't know, the August boom is one, I'll throw up some graphs, I'm sure, where Messi and Ronaldo PSA 10s took off to the moon. Prism just absolutely boomed, and the rare, true, desirable things like rookie stickers, rookie cards, things that actually take a little bit of researching and knowledge to attain the cards, those things didn't do as well until later, when the collectors that were, I'm guessing, probably new and just into the hobby and just buying Prism, once they start to acquire that knowledge of what's really desirable, the money will always float that way. So you have to know that going in. I would just say, buy what you like. Personally, I still have a ton of Prism. I like Prism. I think there's opportunity there, but at the same time, I'm not buying it during the World Cup or during the Euros when it's at its highest, or even Champions League, just any of that. There's no need for that, because again, whenever something's that common, there is always a time that you could buy back later. So I think it'll be interesting to see if they have learned about the Prism boom. I also think it'll mean that, at least so far, Prism hasn't really done too well whenever the rest of soccer's been kind of booming. It's been a lot of the more desirable, unique, rare stuff. And that makes sense, and it's kind of a sign of a healthy market. But again, whenever you might get a new influx of people, that can all go out the window. So that again is why I still keep some Prism, because I understand there are some irrational irrational times in the market where people are just crazy for cards, and that's what I have those for. I don't really love them as much, but I do think they're a nice set. I do think it's nice for just collecting and having. So at the end of the day, so I'm not a Prism hater. I just like to warn people about the dangers of it during a high time in the hobby. But that is what I'm looking forward to going forward into Euro 2021. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like. Anything you want to tell me, let me know in a comment down below. Tell me what you're thinking as far as the Euros go and kind of where the market's heading. And if you want to see more videos like this as soon as they go live, make sure to subscribe. And with that said, hopefully you guys have a wonderful day, and peace.